Okay, so let's jump in. Says the Heilige Rebbe Nachman, Sichos HaRan, we're looking at Sichos HaRan, Tzadi Dalid, number 94. And this is a very short, interesting, quirky kind of little Sicha. And we'll probably get through this one more quickly, and then we'll take a deeper look at the next Sicha, Sichos HaRan, Tzadi Hey. So Rebbe Nachman says like this: Da, a person should know, Kishiyesh Shalom Be'ir, when there is peace in a city, when everybody's getting along, Hu Mipnei She'ein Bar Das Be'ir Hazais. Says Rebbe Nachman, it's very possible that this is because there is actually no intelligent person in this city. Sounds strange, right? Presumably it's a wonderful thing when people get along. Says Rebbe Nachman, no, there's no intelligent person in the city. So what's the connection? So the Rebbe says, because we know the Gemara in Brachas tells us when we're trying to figure out which bracha should we put Havdalah in. We're supposed to make Havdalah in Shemona Esrei Matzah Shabbos, and according to the Rambam at least, that's actually Havdalah D'Oraisa, where we say Havdalah in Shemona Esrei. And the question is, which bracha should we put in as an addendum? To which bracha should we put the text of it becomes Atachon Antanu, but which bracha should we put Havdalah? And the Gemara says we'll put it in Chonin Adas, which ultimately we ended up doing, like I just mentioned, in the bracha of Atachon Antanu, or Atachonin, but we add the composition of Atachon Antanu. And the Gemara says, well, why should it go into the bracha of Chonin Adas? Because says the Gemara, Kim Ein Das Havdalah Minayin. Because if a person doesn't have Das, doesn't have this kind of cognitive capacity, then they are incapable of making distinctions between things, which is a really important part of our thinking. That's a crucial, fundamental element of the human capacity to be able to exist in an intelligent way, is to make distinctions. That's bound up with free choice. Our capacity to be able to choose, to be able to look at a number of different options and to choose among them. That takes das. That takes a developed consciousness. So the Gemara says, therefore, if the capacity to choose and to make a distinction between one thing and another thing is reliant on das, so wouldn't it make beautiful sense to put the composition that speaks about the distinction between Shabbos and the days of the week, which is reflected in the distinction between Eretz Yisrael and the other lands of the world, is the distinction between the Jewish nation and the other nations and each of their separate roles? Shouldn't it therefore go in the bracha of Chonin Adas? And Ein Das, if there's no Das, so Havdalah Minayin, a person would never be able to make those distinctions. Therefore, says the Gemara, Havdalah should go in Chonin Adas, which is how we paskin, of course, in the composition of Atachon Antanu. So Rabbi Nachman is reading that line from the Gemara, and Rabbi Nachman is saying like this. He's saying, Gewalt, you know why you have a city where there's no Havdalah? Meaning there's no distinction between people? Is because it must be that there's no Das. It must be there because in Ein Das, if there's no Das in the city, so Havdalah Minayin. So where should there be distinction? Where should there be two different points of view? Aval Yesh Bar Das Be'ir, says Rebbe Nachman, when you do have Das, and you have a person who's intelligent, and you have people who are intelligent, so then naturally, as a Yesh Havdalah, naturally there's going to be discord. There are going to be some people who are drawn toward the Bardas, toward the intelligent leader, and the person who's saying something new, and a person who's saying something resolute and distinct. And are going to be people who follow him, and there are going to be people who disagree. So it's important to just put things in context. It's obvious. It just sort of goes without saying when you're learning Rabbi Nachman that every teaching needs to be seen within the historical context and the biographical context of Rabbi Nachman's own life. Particularly when we have so many teachings, and we've already seen in our journey through Sichos HaRan, we've seen a number of teachings about opposition and about the reason why tzaddikim are in discord one with the other, why they may fight or they may seem to argue on each other. And it's obvious that Rabbi Nachman was, so to speak, in the sugya because he himself experienced this. So this was very real for Rabbi Nachman, and he was grappling with all different kinds of ways to look at what was taking place in his own life through a spiritual lens to be able to understand the inner dimension and the inner workings of what was going on. So this is a very favorable approach to a person who's embattled, and they must see this Gemara, or they can potentially see this Gemara in Brachos, as a very positive indicator. If there's Havdalah, if there is discord, if there's separation, if there are some people who are connecting to this person and other people who are distinctly disconnecting from this person, says Rebbe Nachman, what's that an indicator? It's an indicator that that person is a bar das. Because it's only in ein das, it's only if there's no das that Havdalah minayin, that there ends up being no discord. And of course we want peace, and of course there should be achdus and unity. But there is an akuda, I'll never forget. It's strange because it's not something I heard from my Rebbe, it's something that I told my Rebbe, Rebbe Weinberger, in the very first meeting that I ever had with him. My father set up a meeting when I was a bacher, still a younger bacher, just fresh back from Eretz Yisrael. I think it was my second or third year. And I started getting into Hasidus a little bit, and I started reading Rebbe Weinberger's articles and listening to the shiurim. And my father knew Rebbe Weinberger and knows Rebbe Weinberger for a very long time. They taught together in a Kiruv organization that's called Ezra Academy. It's still around today. Back then it was Bukharian Jews, and they were working with them. So my father was teaching there, Rebbe Weinberger was teaching there, both of them much younger. And so they know each other a long time, and they go far back. So my father set up a meeting, and Rebbe Weinberger was saying to me how beautiful it is that that things are changing in such a way where Yidden are starting to move beyond the assumed boundaries or perimeter of their own ideology. And what he was saying is how beautiful it is that that Satmar Hasidim are coming to his Rav Kook shiur. This was years ago. And I'm a bit of a chutzpahnik. I always was, and hopefully I could channel it in a good way. But to me, I think that's why we built such a close relationship, because we have this kind of relationship, which I think he appreciates, and I certainly appreciate this opportunity to have a dialogue. So I said, Rebbe, on the one hand, it's beautiful, but on the other hand, might that not be an indicator that that Satmar is not Satmar, and Rav Kook is not Rav Kook, and in a certain way, it's like people lost their identity. So on the one hand, it's beautiful if they're able to transcend their identity, but isn't that a sad statement in a way about what Satmar is or isn't, that they no longer feel so passionate that about what they're supposed to stand for, that what Hashem needs them to be in the world, that light that Hashem needs Yidden to stand for different things, that sometimes the breakdown of boundaries and the peaceful nature of different kinds of Jews being able to get along really just means that no one has a backbone anymore. No one's taking a stand. Nobody's really, and there's an element like that. And he was maskim. There's an element of that. And of course, truth is always multifaceted, and these two things could be true at once. On the one hand, beautiful things are happening. On the other hand, it is somewhat indicative of a breakdown of the das, where people know what they are, and they're inflexible when it comes to the parameters of what they need to say in the world. So I don't think that Chas v'Shalom needs to be argumentative. I don't think it needs to be nasty Chas v'Shalom or with machloikis. But says Rebbe Nachman, if you see a city where everyone just gets along a little bit too well, it usually means that there's no das. No one's thinking, and no one's speaking what they think. And therefore, it's very easy for everyone to get along when nobody's broaching issues, of import. But when people start speaking about the things that matter, says the Rebbe, there's going to be difference. And it's okay. There's always been difference in Am Yisrael. There's been Moshe and Aaron. Were there any two greater lovers than the relationship between Moshe and Aaron, David and Yonasan? So many pairs, beautiful pairs that we had, even before things started to develop, as the Rambam outlines in his Pirish in his introduction to his Pirish Mishnayos. How things broke down because of the Talmidim of Shammai and the Talmidim of Hillel. But going back, like the Gemara tells us about Shammai and Hillel, Elu ve'elu divrei Elikim Chaim. And the Gemara in Kedushin tells us, Daf Lamed around, as Vahev Basoifa, that if people have a machlokes l'shem shamayim, it ends with love. But it's still a machlokes. It could still be a machlokes, and that's a good thing. That means that people are thinking, and that means that people are awake to the direction that their neshama is pulling them. So I think a very important point comes out of at least this reading of Sichos HaRan 94. Again, like I always say, the caveat, I can only ever give you my personal, a very subjective take on these teachings. This is not the ultimate pirush. I'm giving you some food for thought, but I'm sure that each and every one of us on this Zoom, and whoever's going to be listening to the recording, you have your own take on it, and that has to be your thing, and that should be just as important to you, and chashuv and prominent. I'm just giving you my little feeling about it. Take it or leave it for what it's worth. But this tiny feeling that I have, what comes out from this teaching, is that sometimes in the name of achdus, we could forego very important elements of our Jewish identity, and that we shouldn't do. That's not what achdus is. If I have to fundamentally alter my soul identity in order to connect to you, and the other half of that coin is that you need to fundamentally alter your soul's mission in order for the sake that we could tolerate each other, that's not called peace, because nothing happened. I erased my identity, you erased your identity, and we call this that's not what shalom means. Shalom, says Rebbe Nachman, is when two hafuchim, two opposites, they find a way to be able to understand the other's approach, respect it, recognize that Hashem needs them to oppose it and to say something different, and at the same time somehow these two things complement one another, like the male and the female, the husband and the wife, with an all bechinas of mashpia mekabel in every kind of way. They complete each other. That's called peace, but it's okay for there to be havdalah. It's very important for there to be havdalah. Crucial. Mamish crucial. So to put it in a little bit more universal terms, which is a big occupation of mine these days, and you might have heard in the shiur where I'm slowly but surely been dropping a little bit more hints in this area, about the whole world, about the Ummas Ha'olam and the other nations of the world. If in the name of universalism, and in the name of recognizing the inherent Tselem Elokim in every single human being, I am giving up on one iota of my Jewishness, then already not only do I do a disservice to myself, I'm also doing a disservice to everyone else, because they don't need me to obscure my identity in order to love them. They need me to love them, and I mean every human being, as a Jew, as mamish a yid. That's what's important. I need to foster a super clear perimeter, an identity of what it means to be part of the Am HaNivchar, a chosen nation, not in the sense that we're fundamentally better, but in the sense that we were chosen for a specific mission. That's our responsibility, as we're going to see in a minute in the next piece. That's our achrayus. The more that I could foster this sense of identity, so then when I then reach out and I find a way to be what Hashem needs me, I mean collectively as a Jewish nation, all of us need to be in the world, that's peace. That's peace. Because then I, as me, as a Yid, we're going to learn about this more in the next piece, a good segue, in finding a way to interact and to teach and to illuminate and to receive from the rest of our human family. Crucial, very, very, very crucial. And even I didn't understand this as well before I started teaching it, but now I understand it better. In Ein Das, Havdalah Minayin. Havdalah is only going to be there when there's Das. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And that's something that should be clear. Okay, let's move into the second teaching, which is a bit more substantial and very beautiful and very deep. Very, 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 very deep. So let's jump into it all. B'siyata d'shmaya. Says the Rebbe, Sichos HaRan Aleinu Al Kol Yisrael, Rabbeinu Nachman ben Fega. What a privilege to learn his words with you. Says the Rebbe, Da. She'll leave out one of the Das, that's extra. Da, a person needs to know. Shahashem shenoisnim lo'ila adam, that the name that's given to a person, hu lefi ha'pu'ula sheyesh lo'ila adam lasis ba'olam. I think we once had a similar teaching, a related teaching. The name of a person encapsulates, reflects, embodies the whole mission that person needs to do in the world. We had a similar teaching, if you remember, a couple of weeks back, where we went very deeply into this. Every person has a mission. You remember we spoke about that? So we hear again, Lifia pu'ula sheyesh lela adam lasses ba'olam. Sometimes you find people who think that, like, I don't know what what am I supposed to do in this world? Chas v'shalom, people can feel useless. People can feel worthless. And the question is really a very simple one. Do you have a name? Do you have a name? Every human being has a name, unless they were mamish like some feral, like child raised by animals somewhere in the forest. You have a name, so you have a mission. That's it. It's as simple as that. If you have a name, you have a pu'ula. There's something Hashem needs you to do in this world. Hashem didn't create souls just to hang about for 120 years and have a whole range of experiences and just try not to mess up too much, and then go back. Hashem sent us to do a thing, a pu'ula. And there are many, many different, it's a spectrum of pu'ulas. Every person does pu'ulas, whether they know it, whether they don't know it. But to move forward. Whether it's in the context of being a son or a daughter to parents, there's pu'ulas in that dynamic of relationships. Certainly as parents, I'm constantly reminding myself in this frenetic world that we live in, that's so accomplishment driven, where I personally, my personality is like, my sense of worth so much relies falsely and terribly, and it's something I need to continue to heal from. On how much I accomplish and how much I'm doing, and this is a big part of my condition personally, and I think some of you may share it as well. I'm always busy, like gotta do, and the fact is, like, no, I really don't. Right? I'm fine. Okay, but that shouldn't hold me back from doing what I can do. But it has to come from a healthy place. But sometimes I need to remind myself, like, oh my goodness, I'm busy thinking to myself, what did I accomplish this week? What you accomplished this week is that you're a father to 3 sweet, precious little children. Is that not accomplishment enough? Like, if I did nothing else in my life, but I nurtured 3 souls, and I gave them love, and I gave them time, and I built up their confidence, and I helped guide them to find themselves and their nakuda that they had to bring out so that they could live happy, healthy, normal, fulfilled lives. Is that not the greatest accomplishment in the world? Like, what? Everybody starts after that. Okay, yeah, you're a father, but like next? Like, what? Next? What next? What next? A parent. Oh my gosh, what an accomplishment. And we have to pump ourselves up with this stuff. So not everybody's in that matziv, and I bless each and every one of you who was on the Zoom, Be'ezus Hashem, at the right time to have that accomplishment also. And I bless myself to continue to have that accomplishment, and it's all accomplishment, one way or another. Because we play the role that we need to play, one way or another. You understand? We are what we need to be for our children. We try our best, all of us do. I never met a parent who didn't. I really have not met a parent who didn't. Now, some people's best is not all that good. That's true. But parents do try their best, and it's up to us to try to be as healthy as we can as parents, and to try to spread healthy ideas so that other parents can also learn how to raise children in a healthy way, because it's not easy. Very, very, very complicated and difficult, and it only gets more complicated, so I'm told, and I guess I'll find out. But I continue to brace myself, right? But hopefully I have healthy perspectives. I hope. But if it's not parents, think about a million other things that we do. We're doing small things, bigger things that we're supposed to do, things that, like that famous Chris Rock, routine where he goes like, oh, like that's what you're supposed to do. Like all these, no, like supposed to do. It's a big deal. There are pu'ulas. Every person has a pu'ula. Sheyesh lela adam lasses ba'olam. Everybody's got a pu'ula. You know how I know? Because everybody's got a name. There are some people who accomplish what they need to accomplish in half their lifetime. B'chatzi shanam sheyesh lo, he lives half his life, and he accomplished what he needed to accomplish. Halavai, that we should accomplish what we need to accomplish, in however many lifetimes, right? But imagine a person who's mamish working, and really, Godspeed, and half his life, boom, he's done. So says Rebbe Nachman, no problem. Tzarich likro lo shem acher. Dahainu shem chadash. So that's why we need to give him another name. Nebuch, Rachmana litzlan, if a person gets ill, then we add another name. And there are many reasons for this given. Reb Tzaddik has a few reasons. We're going to see from the Sfas Emes. Maybe if we have time, we'll get to the Sfas Emes. But one of the reasons, says Rebbe Nachman, is this. Because it could be that the reason, chas v'shalom, that a person is ill and the neshama is starting to depart from the body while the person is still young, it's possible. There could be any billions of reasons. We don't know. And we should never be so resolute to think that we know anything. We mamish don't know anything. Rabbi Nachman makes that clear in multiple places. We've given shiurim on this. We don't know anything. But it is possible that one of the reasons, ostensibly, that this might be happening is because the person already fulfilled their mission. So you give them a new name, and in the new name is the person's new mission. Because the name that a person is given, which the Arizal tells us is an aspect of Ruach HaKodesh that parents get, what a consequential thing. Can you imagine? It might be the most consequential thing that parents ever do for their kids, maybe. To give them a name that this person for all eternity is going to be known by that name. Is there anything more fundamental to you than your name? Can you imagine living without your name? Imagine you became nameless. You still had all your stuff. Whatever this means, imagine theoretically you lost your name. It's mamish you. It's mamish you. And it's not only you for the life that you live. It's the way you'll be remembered by your children when they get called up for aliyahs, and the way that they remember you, and the way that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren, this is who you are, this is who you were for all eternity. And how beautiful that your parents are the one that gift you that. So deep. Some people complain their parents didn't give them enough. Your parents gave you a name. Your parents gave you a name. That's more than enough. They were prophets in that moment. If they did everything else wrong from that moment, chas v'shalom, on from there, never forget that moment where they were more than they were. Or they were more than they could have ever been. And v'haraya, chas v'shalom, maybe they weren't from that point on. In that moment, they were lifted beyond. They became vessels for a gift of nevuah. And they gave that to you. Very deep. Very, very deep. Says Rebbe Nachman, after a person leaves this world, they are enclothed in their name. Because the name is an aspect of garments. As the pasuk in Yeshayahu says, Ani Hashem hu shemi ukvaydi. I am Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. It is my name and my glory. Says the Rebbe, Kvaidi, glory is a bechinas levushim. This is an aspect of garments, because the Gemara says in Shabbos, Ki Rabbi Yochanan kar lama'aneh, Rabbi Yochanan would refer to his garment as mechabdusa, my glory, that which glorifies me. So there's a connection between kavod and levush, and in this pasuk it says, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem, hu shemi, it is both my name, ukvaidi, which we're now understanding as, and my garment. God is enclothed, His Spirit, with all the concepts and all of the code that later becomes all the different things. I wrote up this morning a dream that I had last night about the shul. I don't know, some of you may have seen, with 4 chambers, and each of the chambers is associated with one of the letters of Hashem's name, with all of the different associative elements that manifests, as the Mekubalim tell us it does, in creation because of the energy of the name. One of the 4 levels of existence, one of the four elements, different colors, different musical energies, different designs, and so on and so forth. And I envisioned the 4 parts of Shachris being experienced as moving from one of these chambers to the next chamber, to the next chamber, to the next chamber. And at the end, a bit facetiously, I wrote, there was no talking in this shul. because to be immersed in davening like that, I can't imagine anyone would talk in such a shul. So maybe, you never know, one day, maybe we'll have that in some form of reality. But Hashem's energy is infused in these four little letters. Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nikra Havaya. We refer to Hashem as Yud Kei Vav Kei, which if you scramble the letters is called Havaya, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei scrambled, so that's why we call it the Shem Havaya, because it enables us to pronounce it, to refer to the name that is ineffable, that we don't pronounce with our mouths. It says the Rebbe B'Shem Havaya is Hava Kol HaOlamos. It's also a word, and the word Havaya means existence, beingness. Ki b'shem Havaya, with these four letters, nis Hava Kol HaOlamos. Everything that exists was beamed, emanated really into existence. But says the Rebbe, and this is so important, this is so crucial, because it's so humbling, and it's so real, and it's so liberating. Aval l'mala mikol ha'olamos, says the Rebbe, let's be honest. You think you know Hashem, I think I know Hashem. What do I know? What exactly do I know? Ani yodea klum. But I know Hashem's name. Says the Rebbe, you think that's Hashem? You know the Hashem that's filtered down into this aspect of what we call reality, the four olamos. Aval l'mala mikol ha'olamos, ein lo shem. There's a place beyond the name of Hashem, beyond these four letters, where Hashem is nameless. Nameless. So formless, so absolutely impossible to capture in any concept, in anything limited. Or ein lo shem. It's a wild thing to think about. Hashem has no name. And I said Hashem has no name. Even therein lies the problem. I can't even say the sentence. It. Maybe it is too limiting. It's for sure not him. It's for sure not her. Maybe even it. What's it? What it? Like refers to something specific as opposed to other specific things that are theoretically in that category. It. Now I'm referring to that thing as opposed to other. Don't you understand? There are no words. No words. And even me saying no words is already too many words. L'cha dumya sehila, says David HaMelech. Silence. That's a God I could believe in. A God who's so infinite and so beyond any concept and any levush of any kind, so not migusham, so not materialized, limited in any way, shape, or form of any kind. That's what we refer to as the universal source, the ground of being, the presence that can be accessed by everyone, and that's in everything and beyond everyone and beyond everything. And the eternal mystery that keeps me in a perpetual state of wonder and humility. Aval l'mala mikol ha'olamos ein lo shem. Ki l'mala mikol ha'olamos, because beyond all of those worlds, we can't even begin to fathom him at all. V'zehu, and that's pshat on the pasuk Tehillim. Ki igdalta al kol shimcha imrasecha. Beyond al kol shimcha, beyond all of your names, imrasecha. What is imrasecha? Says Rebbe Nachman, literal translation is your sayings. Zu ha'pa'ula, and it refers to actions of Hashem. Ki b'mar nivra olam, because before there was a world, Hashem did a pa'ula. He created the world. And presumably there are other pa'ulas of Hashem. Ki b'mar nivra olam, so Hashem is doing other things, so to speak. And David HaMelech wants to say, Shimcha is sweet. That's the level of godliness that we could relate to in this realm. But says David HaMelech, I am under no illusion to think that that's the sum total of the infinite. Imra Secha, your pu'ula is Hashem. What you're doing in the infinite sense of doing and being, ki yigdalt al kol shimcha imrasecha. That reaches way beyond what any letters of any name can capture. Whatever Hashem is doing, so to speak, beyond the worlds, meaning beyond all the realms of existence, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, Gadol Mikol Hashem and Sheish Yisbarach. It's beyond anything, beyond all the names of Hashem. Because beyond all of these worlds, like we said, Hashem has no name. And that's so deep and beautiful. I want you to know this is the place where every human being can relate to Hashem. Because that's the truly universal aspect, where there's no name. He's not Elikenu, he's not our God, he's not, Yud Ke Vav Ke Shema is intertwined with our name. That's an aspect of the way Hashem reveals himself. But there is a universal mystery that human beings of every color, size, shape, race, history, nation, creed, that the human being, Tselem Elokim, could relate to this. They could relate to this, and they're going to relate to this. That's what it means. Okay, I have to tell you a little story now. These things happen to me sufficiently frequently that I shouldn't be as shocked as I still am when they do. But this was a particularly strong reminder that God is actually a real thing. Okay, I cannot make this stuff up. My heart almost stopped, and I immediately just closed my eyes and threw my head back, and I started just speaking to Hashem, like, what do you want from me? What is this? What do you want from me? Listen to this. I went to sleep very late last night. And before I went to sleep, I don't even remember the train of thought that led me to the following. I don't remember what it was I was thinking about. I don't know. But before I went to sleep, the following thought popped into my head. I was thinking, because I'm thinking very much about the world and about Jews and about our relationship with the nations of the world and their perception of us and who we are as a people and what the heck we're doing, and what can we do, what should we do, what might we do, what shouldn't we do. And I was thinking just on the most fundamental level, this name, Jew. I was thinking about this name. What this name, Jew? It's so arbitrary. No one knows what it means. Etymologically, it is a derivative of the Aramaic form of the word Yehudi, so they dropped the Udi and it became Yu, and it became Jew, and it became Jew. I mean, forget it. No one knows what that is. But we are the Jews. And that's our identity. Oh, the Jews. Why does every other culture get to dictate to the whole world what they should or shouldn't be called, and what they chas v'shalom must never be called, despite having always been called that in history, and we can't reinvent our national identity? Why shouldn't we stand up and demand to the modern progressive world, we're shedding this identity. We are not what you think we are. I was thinking of this idea. Let's stand up as a collective front, and let's opt for a new name. Let's opt to be called something different. I was thinking this last night before I went to sleep. It seems arbitrary. Jew is meaningless. Make them call us Yehudi. And let us teach them that we're a people that's always been grateful for what we had. How about that? Does that fit the stereotype? Of the money changing tax collector? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because we're so beholden to their image. So shatter it. Okay. Strange random thought. I didn't do much with it. I went to sleep. I opened the Sichos HaRan today, which I hadn't seen in at least 10 years, because I haven't learned the Sefer in a long time. And I hadn't prepared, and I have no idea what the piece is going to be before I open it up on Mondays to prepare a little bit, and I prepare the source sheets and I take a look. You guys ready for this? Because I don't know what this means. But I know that there's a God in the world. And this is what the pasuk in Yeshayahu says. All the nations will see your righteousness. And they'll call you by a new name. I'm telling you, Chevra, I saw this, my heart stopped. There is so little chance that these two things could possibly coincide out of coincidence that it is shocking. It is a shocking gilui of Elokus in my life and now in all of our lives. The nations will see what Am Yisrael is meant to do in the world. What the heck is that? Can you explain that to me? What is that? What did I experience? I'm telling you, Chevra, animate. I'm like, I couldn't believe my eyes. I could not believe my eyes. Haidul Hashem. I feel like I saw a miracle in a weird way, in an internal way. Because that's a trip, okay? That's a wild thing. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to share that with you. Now, so let's go back to this, okay? The pasuk tells us in Yeshayahu that when Am Yisrael get our act together, and we're mamish acting like Am Yisrael, really though, really, and we're doing what we're meant to do in this world, which means to be spiritually activated people who are the furthest thing from a culture, who have total theological clarity as to what we believe and why, and feel confident enough to speak to the nations of the world and to produce content. They're going to see what's going on. Sheyili Yisrael. And this is maybe Rebbe Nachman's answer to me. It's not, you don't dictate to them what to call you. No. You change and they'll call you a different name. You show them. You show them that you don't deserve to be called by slave monikers anymore. You show them. That's what Yeshayahu is saying. So Kamai came back to the individual. Sometimes halfway through the life, boom, a person fulfilled their tafkid. And that's it. You need to call him a different name. Says Rebbe Nachman, there are the deepest mysteries. All of this that we're saying now is the deepest secrets of Torah. To know how a person's name encapsulates and encompasses their mission, their identity. And so Rebbe Nachman says this is why they call l'choyle Shem Acher. They call to a sick person, they call by a different name. Because if a person's getting very ill, it might mean that they've accomplished what they were sent to this world to accomplish. It could be in accordance with the name that he was given or she was given by their birth. And therefore his job is done. Because that's why we're here. We're on a mission. It's a task. It's an avodah. Amal adam amal yulad. There's work to do. Sometimes in aliyah, when a person's doing well. Sometimes in yerida, when a person is faltering. There's always work. You're on a mission. The whole life is a mission. This is the trip. This world is the illusory reality. And then we wake up to a real reality one day after 120. This is the Alma de Shikra. This is the illusion. We're on a mission down here. Can't forget it. That's the perspective that we need. Otherwise we get caught up with all kinds of things and we're miserable. We have to remember this whole thing is a mission. We're on a mission. We have a pu'ula. And therefore, chas v'shalom, when a person's pu'ula is accomplished, they got to give you another, not you, but give a person another name. Pu'ula acheres, that the person should have another pu'ula, another mission. And then he can live another few years. So that they can call him by another name, so that they can be called by the new mission of his new name. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu had so many different names. As the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us, because every time he had another name, he completed the mission and he needed to inherit a new name. So he was just plowing through missions, boom, 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 one after the other. So he needed each and every time to inherit a new name, which contained his new mission. So he could go out and accomplish other missions. Okay, the truth is that I have to go now. But the other truth, which is a concurrent truth, is that we must see the Sfas Emes. So we're going to daven for Godspeed. We're going to read it very quickly, and we'll be Mekayim both. Okay, let's do this very, very quickly. Hashem appeared to Yaakov again, and he said, Lo ya'ikar shimcha Yaakov ki im, right? Yisrael yishmecha. They're not going to call your name Yaakov anymore. A name change. Now your name is going to be upgraded to Yisrael. Says the Sfas Emes very quickly, like Rebbe Nachman says, the name that a person is born with is the name that holds everything that he needs to fix. And that's what the Medrash says, that the first thing that they ask a person when they go up after 120 they ask you, what's your name? I think we learned that. So we already had a teaching that was all about this, right? What's your name? And the Rishayim can't answer because they are out of touch, or lived out of touch, chas v'shalom, with their mission. The Yaakov loizu shetikin eshemai. So Yaakov Avinu not only rectified that name Yaakov, aval zacha oid lias nikra shema Yisrael, he inherited a new name, and it's the same thing what Rebbe Nachman is saying. Ki kfar tiken shem Yaakov. He already rectified the name Yaakov. Zesh shakasav, and that's pshat on the pasuk. Vayera oid. Hashem appeared further, meaning in a more expansive way. Lashon toisefes or toisafes, right? It's a language that indicates addition. Vayera oid, because now when Hashem was coming to give him a new name, it was not just a new name, it was an additional name, and not just because it was a second name, but because the very giving of a new name meant that Yaakov Avinu was about to inherit a brand new mission, a brand new element of identity. Because now a new revelation of Hashem was coming down to Yaakov Avinu, a revelation the likes of which the name Yaakov couldn't contain, but the name Yisrael could contain it. Hashem gives him a new name, which is a new vessel that the new revelation of Hashem could appear in. Therefore, that Sarishal Esav wrestled with Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov Avinu was compared to the Malach. He was grappling with a Malach here. Because again, that's what a Malach does. A Malach's whole thing is his name. And with his name, he does his shlichus. So every Malach, when it's his time to do a new thing, his name is switched. Boom. And that's what Yaakov was in that moment. Every minute of a person's life, they are busy doing their mission until they're finished, and then the neshama leaves their body. And it reminds us why we're here. It's a mission. The whole thing is a big, big mission. So Yaakov Avinu, who accomplished his mission, they gave him a new mission. This is the concept of the inheritance of Yaakov, which according to the Gemara means nachla b'li meitzarim. It is a inheritance that has no boundary. Yaakov Avinu is not limited, meaning even Yaakov, as Yaakov Avinu, mustn't stay Yaakov. Oh, he becomes more. He becomes Yisrael. And Yisrael could evolve further, and they become even deeper. And as Klal Yisrael, like we learned from that Pasi Yeshayahu, we have to evolve, we have to grow, we have to become bigger and deeper. And Hashem is revealing deeper Torahs and deeper lights as creation unfolds, the sight of Pnimius HaTorah, the sight of this ever unfolding disclosure of deeper and deeper hasagas and ways of thinking and seeing ourselves and seeing others and seeing the world and seeing Hashem, and we have to change from this bubbling spirit of the Jewish essence. We need to continue. It is already, and we need to help foster the suffusing of this spirit throughout our culture, throughout our language, throughout our ways of thinking, throughout our ways of parenting, throughout our ways of teaching, throughout our ways of being rabbis, throughout our ways of being congregants, throughout our ways of engaging with Torah and mitzvahs. Everything's got to evolve. And when it does, and we can show, like I go back to the previous point, we can show the world that we're not small, and we can show the world that we're so much more than whatever they could have imagined us to be, which we already are. We already are, but now we got to showcase it. Now we have the opportunity to showcase it. So many are doing such tremendous work. It's just the beginning. Just the beginning. On social media and different projects and programs and initiatives and all these different things. It's going to change everything. We're going to have a new name. We're going to shed this little name Jew. We're going to shed it. And they're going to call us, like the Yeshayahu says 3 psukim later, they're going to call us Chefzi Ba. Chefzi Ba. They're going to call us the desirable people. The people who win them over with chen, like Rabbi Nachman says, Mashiach will conquer the world, the whole world, without one bullet. Am Yisrael doesn't need weapons. Am Yisrael doesn't need forcing anyone. It's bad policy when you need to force people. We win people over with our love, with our chen, with our care, with our compassion, with our humanity, with our humility, with our being a reflection of our source. And this is how we change the world. This is the spirit of Mashiach. This is the spirit of Mashiach. When all of us work to do this inner work in and of our own selves, we redeem the spark of Mashiach inside of us, and slowly but surely the light of Mashiach is glowing and glowing and glowing and glowing. And all people see is just mature, elevated, broad, loving people. That's my vision. That's mamash what I daven to be privileged to be a tiny part of. And when I daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help us as a nation continue to get closer and closer to this point. To this point. Nachla b'li mitzarim. This is what it means to be Yaakov. Shed labels. Keep on going. Bigger. No labels, nothing. Don't get caught up. Effervescent essence. Mamish ruchnius. Godliness. Shezeu b'chinas neshama yisera. This is the deep secret of Shabbos. V'zeu perish vayera elikim oid. Hashem appeared oid. More. Ki masha adam nivra alav hu b'mida v'shir miyuchel. But a person is created limited. But Yaakov prepared for this nation, Am Yisrael, that we will change, we will grow. And we will never change from what we are fundamentally, chas v'shalom. The Torah is the Torah, and etc. None of that changes. But within that, the plants that are growing in that garden, they stay in that garden, they grow taller and taller. In the Dalet Amos of Halacha. You know how much could take place in the Dalet Amos of Halacha if we cultivate that garden properly? It's up to us what to do in the Dalet Amos of Halacha. Sure, the Dalet Amos demarcate a certain place where, okay, this is what Am Yisrael is, and this is where we operate, and this is what Torah is. But the seeds that we plant, and how much we choose to water, etc., that's up to us. What we could cultivate in the Dalet Amos of Halacha. Unbelievable. Yaakov Avinu is the hanhaga of a boundless portion. Neshama Yisera, Shabbos, b'li gvul v'shir yadua, without any limit, without any known limit. This is what we taste on Shabbos. When we come all muddied in one way or another from the work week, and we schlep ourselves home and we put away our tools and we feel that we've become elevated. We're different on Shabbos than we are during the week. At least I bless us to be. As a nation, we can be a 6 days of the week version of the Jewish people, and we can be a Shabbos version of the Jewish people. And that's what we're aiming for. And that's what Yaakov Avinu is teaching us when he sheds the name Yaakov Avinu and he becomes Oid, he becomes more than that, and he becomes Yisrael. When we leave our old name behind as individuals and as a collective nation, and we inherit a new paradigm. That's what's called upon now. The old ways of thinking hasn't gotten us far enough, and it won't. The old paradigms, the old talking points, we need new thinking, fresh thinking. Not black or white, but blue, like different, something different, something completely different. We need courageous new thinking. And that's our task, to be a part of that Torah Sheba'al Peh, to be part of that eternal conversation. Healthier, deeper, more authentic, more sincere, more vibrant, more real, more universal, and more particular, more plugged into what we are, and more visionary, so that we can redeem the world. Because that's what's called upon, that's what we're called upon to do, no less. No less. Hashem should bless us, Be'ezus Hashem, guided by the tzaddik, guided by teachings like these. We're going to get there. We are getting there, but we have to keep our eye on the ball. Together, zusammen, only together. Yasher Koyach, thank you so much for joining, for learning with me and learning with all of us, and wishing everybody the most beautiful rest of your week. Thank you so much. Chazak v'ematz chaver.